Welcome to a new Alfresco video. We are talking today about the installation of Alfresco, and in this case we are focusing for new users or people just trying to evaluate the product. So this is like the very simple way of installing Alfresco, and we have created this repository, this GitHub repository for you with the basic instructions in order to run Alfresco by using Docker. So this project is using behind this wrapper of the project Alfresco Docker installer. So if you are a technical guy, just go to this project, to this Alfresco Docker installer project. But if you are not interested in details, you can just follow this tutorial and you will get Alfresco running in your environment. Note also that this README include some requirements, running instructions, stopping instructions, and there is also a building section. So this building section is only applying to developers willing to create a Docker image by themselves or willing to contribute the product, but is not for you if you are just trying to use Alfresco and to deploy Alfresco by using Docker Compose. Okay, so let's start with the requirements. In order to run Alfresco, only Docker is required. So you have all the information of the product. You can install Docker for the different environments. If you are using Mac, like in this case, or Windows or Linux, you have all the instructions in order to install Docker in your computer. Once that Docker is available in your computer, you need to check that you have at least 16 gigabytes of RAM available in your system. You can run Alfresco with less than that, but this is like the official recommendation. So with that, you are safe. With less RAM, you may have some problems. Since Docker is running on a light virtualization inside environments, the instructions to change this memory allocation are different for every different operative system. So you have the instruction for Mac, for Windows, or for Linux. So in my case, since I'm using Mac, I have this year, and in this year I have the resources section, and in this resources section I have this memory allocation, and in my case I just using 20, but I could use also 16. So Docker is running in my environment because this Docker desktop is running, and I have the right memory, so I'm ready to go. So let's move to the terminal. So the first thing we need to verify is that Docker is up and ready. So let's move to the terminal and just check if that is true. Okay, so Docker is running. The next thing is just to create a new folder. And this folder is required to hold all the files and folders created by the installer. So the installer is going to create a set of files that are describing to Docker Compose how to run Alfresco. So let's create the folder also on my local environment. So let's create the Alfresco folder and let's move into Alfresco folder. Okay, that's fine. Let's continue with that. So in order to produce all the Docker Compose template with all the files, we need to use this command. So docker run, we are going to run a Docker image with -it, that is interactive mode. And we are just describing to Docker where we want to store all the file generated. That in this case is the current folder. So we can express that by using this expression in Linux or Mac environment, or if you are using a Windows environment and you are using PowerShell, just use this other syntax. So it's going to produce all the files in the current folder, and we are executing this Docker image. So in my case, I'm using Mac OS, so I'm just choosing this one. So I paste the command, and I can find this this UI, this environment that is asking me some questions related to the Alfresco installation. So all the information related with this customization is available in this project. So you have all the details on all the different versions and so on. But if you don't know about that, you don't feel comfortable with with the question, just choose default, and that should be enough. So the ACS version you want to use, usually you want to use the latest version. I'm going to pick that. I'm using an Apple Silicon, so in my case I need to reply yes to this question. But if you are using some other laptop, probably you don't need to use that option. And the amount of RAM, 16 is default, so I'm going with that. If you want to use HTTPS, you require some additional operations in order to use your own certificates. So I'm not going to use that for this simple evaluation. If you are installing Alfresco on a different server, not on your local computer, then you can also specify the name of your server at this point, but we are running locally, so localhost is fine. You can also specify a different password for the admin user, but we are fine with default. And also we can define a port in order to use Alfresco. In this case, we are fine also with default port with HTTP default port 80. That's fine. We are not choosing like special services like FTP. We are using default database. We are choosing default again for that. Again, we are going with default because this is technical stuff on Alfresco. And we are not going also to use this kind of subsystem, this kind of specific services. We are going with default. We are not going to add any add-ons. So the add-ons are kind of plugins that are adding some features to the environment, but and we have like this list of default add-ons. But again, in this case, we are going with simple installation, so we are not going to install any of the add-ons. We are not using Windows, so we can go with the no. You can choose if you want to start the script, but it's not required for the simple use. And again, this is a technical question that we don't care. So once that is ready, we are getting this information in our system. So this is the information in order to start Alfresco and in order to use the Alfresco once that is started. And we have also a list of the files that have been created in our folder. So these files are containing all the configuration of Alfresco in order to run that with Docker Compose. So once that is ready, we can follow the starting Alfresco section. So start Alfresco using the command Docker Compose app. Okay, so let's do that. We can just, we need to wait a bit till all the services are running, but we need to find this kind of line. So with this line, Alfresco server startup in a number of milliseconds, we know that the Alfresco is running. So just let's wait a bit. It's trying to apply some configuration. And once that is ready, we can start with the UI. This is like the modern UI that will be available in HTTP localhost. We have also the legacy UI. We name that SER. And this UI includes some operations that are still not available in the new UI, like the users and group management. So this is the URL for that application. And we have also the repository that is mainly the services layer of Alfresco with a REST API and so on. And you can also access to that by using localhost/Alfresco. since we choose default credentials, default credential for Alfresco for the username is admin, and the same thing for the password. So just let's wait a bit till this is running, and let's wait for that line to be on the on this log. Okay, it took a while, but finally we have this line on the log. So Alfresco server startup is up and ready. So we can go to the browser and just use this this URL. I'm using exactly the same URL that is on the documentation, but in your configuration this may be different, so just watch out to the port you used and so on. So I can just use this one, and I have the Alfresco UI, right? So this is the modern Alfresco UI. I can also access to the legacy UI. So this one. And finally, I have also access to the repository. Okay, so I can also just get access to the repository. That is like the technical layer with technical information. So we have this UI application, both UI applications, and let's make something simple just to verify something later. So let me find, I'm going to add a simple document. So with that, we have a document in Alfresco. We can create or apply also some other configuration, right? But once we have that in Alfresco, we can evaluate some other things. We decide to stop Alfresco. So in order to stop Alfresco, you can just try typing this Ctrl+C in the terminal. So let's do that. Okay, Ctrl+C. And this is stopping the Alfresco deployment, so it's not available anymore. And if we want to start again, we are just typing docker compose app once more time from the folder with the configuration. Remember that this is the folder that contains all the configuration. So docker compose app again, and we just need to wait till Alfresco is up and ready. If something is wrong, you are going to get some errors in this terminal, right? So you need to identify the problem and to fix the problem if that happens. But on the successful execution, you are going to get something like this. So a clean log, and in the end, you are going to get that server startup. So with that, we have again this up and ready. We need to authentify again, obviously. So let's create the authentication, and we have the document that we added on the session before on the folder, right? So this is like a very simple way of installing Alfresco and using Alfresco for evaluation purposes and so on. And once you are comfortable with that, you can move to the Alfresco Docker installer project in order to learn a bit more about Alfresco deployment and customization. So that was all for today. I hope it was useful for you, and see you next time. Bye.